Hey everyone, what's going on? It's Ash here. Just coming back to you with another episode of Building a Startup Live. It's been a busy week, and this new company is being built extracurricularly currently alongside different, which of course is the main thing. Hence why I'm putting more value into this community so that you guys can watch me build this company as I go. Now, in the last video, I basically roughly introduced what I'm trying to build here by putting a virtual co-founder in the pockets of every creator on the planet. We should be able to personalize the startup journey for anybody, anywhere, regardless of their budget, to lower that cost to zero and essentially disrupt every kind of accelerator coaching program or outdated and gated solution that currently exists around the world, allowing me to really deliver on the mission to democratize entrepreneurial support and enable anyone, regardless of their circumstances, to start and build the thing they wish to see in the world. Now, it's a very high level pitch. What does that really look like? You know, the only thing that actually is tangible in that pitch is about putting a virtual co-founder in people's pockets. Well, I wanted to take this time to kind of expand on that and give you a bit more insight as to what what that experience might look like. Now, for future reference, I'm going to figure out the best way to produce videos where I can switch to tech tools so I can see and show you screen grabs of things that are going on at the time. I've written a list for myself about the intended user experience that's going to be really helpful for not only me to follow, to build a roadmap out for what the product should feel like and communicate that to the technical team that will be building it, but also really helpful for the investors as and when I'm pitching them so that they can see what am I really trying to achieve here. Because as you know, you'll have seen so many startups pitch really big visions and nobody really understands what it actually is in the founder's head that they're considering. Well, I want to make that really clear. We'll get to the problem where we have to illustrate that and narrate that in a short as possible pitch deck at some point. That's going to be a fun task, and I say that tongue in cheek. But making sure that's just listed simply somewhere. And so I want to run that through with you guys right now. I will copy this list into the content below just so that you can see what that looks like and follow along with me. But again, I'm doing this in public so that you can follow along and potentially use some of the stuff that I'm talking about here to build your own company. Ideally, not a direct competitor, that would be great. But a lot of these tasks and ways that I'm doing this can be applied to any company anywhere, really. An intended user experience can be an intended customer journey. It can be an intended partner journey. It can be anything that you want to exist and how you imagine it existing in a perfect world, and then allowing you to build that in later on. So that's what I'm working on. Now, what I have here so far is a list of the things that I would like people to experience as they go through this platform. And this will help you better understand what I'm trying to build here. So one of the problems I'm trying to solve is that people want to start a business, but when they've made the decision, which is often just a mental decision, okay, today's going to be the day, nothing really changes. You know, you search for support maybe, or you just wonder what to do. You know, building a business is the only job in the world you don't get onboarded to. No one's around to tell you what to do first. No one's around to tell you what to do next. And so you end up in places like different. Well, that's fine, but there's only one of me and there's only so many people here that I can help without the technology to do that at scale. I want to do that. And so how do we make that happen? Well, giving people the ability to open their phone and get access to personalized, i.e. better, faster, instantaneous support from something that understands their circumstances should allow us to give a better startup experience for anyone. The intention here in step one is that the user would join the platform. You know, my job is to build great marketing campaigns, obviously, to ensure that they engage with it in the first place, be that through a web app, a website, or a native application on their phone. The tech team will define which the best process is for that. Native's probably the ideal scenario, but of course we've got to consider you know, an MVP. How much do we spend versus what the reward's going to be, and you know, what's the lowest hanging fruit, and how do we get to the next step after that? But let's just assume we figure that out already. This user is wanting to start a business, or has just started one, or is in the early stages of one and wants to be guided through that process, is looking for support, just like most of us do. So they open that platform. What do I want them to do first? Well, I want them to have a comprehensive onboarding experience. The intention is to have a conversational AI in your pocket that can answer all the questions and ideally make really timely, insightful, personalized suggestions as to people you should meet, things you should read, tasks you should undertake, things you should pay attention to in your business, given the circumstances of where you're at that time, and tools maybe you might want to consider using to help you build a better company. So we need to gather some data to be able to do that properly first and foremost. It's probably an assumption that you'll want to build a website if you haven't already got one. It's going to be easy to understand that you're based in a certain location and at a certain stage, and we can ask you some questions about the business you're trying to build. All of that will allow us to, over hopefully a very short and really engaging experience of a couple of minutes, gather enough data that we can use to power a really powerful personalized experience. So we've got that data, we've introduced you to the helper in your pocket, and now we can surprise you with actually quite hopefully insightful suggestions of those things that you should do, should read, should meet, should use. And as soon as you engage with one of those, I would hope that you can be rewarded for this. Now, this is something that I didn't mention in the last video, but the personalized startup journey, the virtual co-founder in your pocket, is the main catch point for this business. But there's a cherry on the cake, which I think will be a second and really compelling piece of the product proposition, which is a social currency economy, a reward mechanic that allows you to build reputation by helping each other, by being active in the community and building points for doing so. Social currency is a very real thing. I've built a career on it up to this point, and platforms like LinkedIn don't seem to recognize who's really valuable and who's just there having an easy ride from other people helping them. Maybe the number of connections is a representation of that, but I don't think it is. So what we want to do is really reward people for being useful, being helpful. And thanks to some members in our community, there's an example of that being done really, really well. The guys at Helpful Peeps built an amazing business previously, which allowed people to be helpful to each other and build reputational currency as a result. So I'd like to, and when I say currency, I don't mean crypto. We're not building anything on the blockchain just yet. Maybe that's the best technology at some point that we use, but right now it's just a points-based mechanic, something more like popular games that you might play, like World of Warcraft or Fortnite, for example. V-Bucks is the economy on Fortnite, and you earn those by being an active player over time and engaging in the game. Now, if you were a very helpful player, you might also have the mechanic where you could give somebody some more V-Bucks for helping you out in a game. And that's basically the experience I want to emulate in business, where if somebody's really helpful to you, they've given you some insight, they've answered a question, they've introduced you to somebody, they've been useful, you can give them some points, not necessarily pounds, but some sort of points. And those points then get to be able to be used in an ecosystem and a marketplace eventually. Initially, it's probably a recognition mechanic, but there will be ways in which I want to make sure that you can use those points to subscribe to your next piece of software that you need for your business, potentially even, buy your next MacBook for running your company, and maybe some fundings in between, but we'll see. So that's the aim. That's what I want to do, is allow you to get onboarded into the platform, have your personalized suggestions made and your recommendations made, which will happen then, but also obviously be pushed to you later on. I'll get to that step. But by engaging in the first one, getting rewarded for doing so, having your little aha moment that makes you think, wow, what a great experience. I might come back to this later, come back to this tomorrow. And whilst obviously I understand that there's a real narrative that if you are on a free platform, then you are the product, I want to make it very clear, and this will be a marketing challenge for us, I'll make it very clear that we care more about the personalized and effective journey of our users in building brilliant businesses than we do about pushing any old product towards them that might make us some money. The truth is that we'll make more money if we suggest the perfect tools to you at the right time, because you'll use those tools for longer and you'll come back to us for your next recommendation, rather than if I just send you the thing that's going to make us the most money at that time, because we'll lose that loyalty. You'll realize that tool wasn't quite right for you and we'll never hear from you again. So it's about making sure that that relationship is replicable, and that you stay with us for not only the first 100 days of your business journey, which is probably where we'll start, but the next 5 years until you maybe exit that company. So that's next. We reward you for being in the platform, and you get your aha moment, which says, hey, maybe I want to come back to this. And we start you on your journey of building that business. Maybe the first step, maybe the next step, because you've already started, but certainly some momentum at the very least. And then over time, we do what popular apps like Duolingo do. We maybe not as aggressive as that almost mafia-like owl that they've got right now that seems to just want to fight you into coming back into the platform, but is very successful in doing so. Right? They've trained people and educated people to learn new languages all over the world right now using a digital tool that's highly scalable because they've used technology to do that. And I want to do a similar thing, but with business education and business momentum and goal setting and community ultimately. So, as we bring you back into the platform, you take the next step, you engage more in the product, you help other people, you build a community inside it, you plug in other third-party platforms that maybe allow us to gather a bit more data to make your journey even better. For example, you might set up your first payment gateway for your first business that you're building, and that might be Stripe. And we might say, hey, plug your Stripe account into the platform. And then when Stripe earns you a little bit more money, our platform might say, hey, congrats, you made your first £100 ever. Here's an achievement. Here's a reward for doing that. Here's some points to spend in our marketplace at some point. Well done. Share that with your friends. Share that journey. Tell people that you've done that. It's crazy to me that in a world of startups and businesses, we don't reward each other. We don't celebrate it. We have parties for new babies, but we don't have parties for new businesses. And obviously they're very different things, but to an entrepreneur, a business can often feel very much like a baby. It's a job at the very least. And so congratulations on your new job would be something that I would love to have people sharing out publicly, which of course brings more users back to us. And so that loop continues. And so that's the experience that I want to build. You decide you want to build a business, you have everything that you need to access all of the advice you need in a timely, instantaneous manner in your pocket or anywhere with an internet connection. You have that for free through us. We suggest to you the right tools, the right advice, the right things at the right time. You get rewarded for using those things. We get paid because you use the right tool at the right time. We got some money for it, and you're using the tool because it is the perfect tool for you. We're not just suggesting any random rubbish at you because we'll get paid. And then you engage with the community and you build a reputation because you're a helpful, useful person, or at least engaged in the platform. And then you can use those points to come back into the community and into the marketplace and use that to get access to tools and resources, and maybe eventually even turn that into a real economy where you can exchange that with other people for goods and services. In lieu of capital and cash in the bank, you might say, hey, I've been so useful, I've got 10,000 points, whatever the exchange rate might be, and say, hey, I want to use those points to pay for my first website because that person who's a website builder really values these points and actually wants to use it to pay for their business insurance or whatever it might be. That's what I'm trying to build here. Hopefully beyond the first video, which was a little bit vague, I understand. That gives you a little bit more info about what I'm going to try and create here. And I will probably do a separate video shortly on how I'm okay with sharing all of this. I know there's a lot of founders that are very reserved about their ideas. And yes, I'm going to be putting this out publicly, and I will do that with a lag. So I don't want to sound like a massive hypocrite here by including that lag, but that's just protecting me from a time-based point of view. I trust that our community will probably not copy word for word everything that I'm going to build. And actually the reality is that any time that and energy I spend on holding that idea so close that it doesn't get out into the world is energy wasted, because at the end of the day, I want everybody to be using this business eventually. So I should be telling everybody about it. Reality is everybody else has got their own stuff going on. And so if you don't share that idea, or if you do share that idea, the likelihood of them taking it and going and running with it in exactly the same way that you're thinking about is nigh on impossible, because you've got your own ideas. And so that's why I'm very happy to be sharing all this stuff with you guys, because I think, one, hopefully it will be a good piece of education. Maybe it will be a great way for me to set a standard. Hopefully I can make set a good example of somebody building a business and maybe get it to a venture scale, or at least get it started in the first place. This is where we're at right now. But also be entertaining. Maybe you'll enjoy this content as we go. There will probably be laughter. there will almost certainly be tears and stress and me banging my head against this desk and maybe any other desks at some point. But yeah, I wanted to share this really publicly. And as I say, there'll probably be another video that I'll do shortly on why having your ideas not protected and not worrying about holding them to your cards too close to your chest is probably conducive to a good thing as opposed to a bad. My disclaimer there is, of course, if you're working on anything highly sensitive like deep tech or deep science stuff, then that will probably be a different scenario, and I'm sure you can use common sense when thinking about that. But I'll do that, as I say, in a separate video. This video is about the next step of this business. We've got an overarching concept. Now we've got a intended user experience, what I want people to see and feel when they come into that platform. Where we go next will be around, what does that really look like? Can we come up with some rough designs or at least an intended user experience, a user interface, a brand? What does a brand look and feel like? How do you create a brand? What are the personality traits the brand should have? How does it look, feel, and how do we see it on our screens? You know, everything down to the nuances of typography. How do you pick a name even? You know, I've not mentioned that I've a name and an intention of a name here yet. So how would I pick a name, and have I got one yet? And when do I choose that? So many other things that we'll be diving into in future sessions. But as of today, that was the intended user experience. And hopefully that's something that you guys agree with. But if there's any gaps in there, you're here to help build the future of this business too. If you want to. Feel free to just watch, learn, listen, and laugh maybe. But if you want to have a part in this, then feel free to make suggestions of what you think could be added or should be added at this point, and I'll take it into account for sure. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you probably very soon in the next one. Thanks, guys.